Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Street Tarot and Seasons and Ritual, and I'm here to talk about the full moon in Cancer. Or no, the full moon in Capricorn that happened at 1 degree of Cancer and 1 degree of Capricorn. It just happened. It was yesterday, today, depending on where you were in the world, and it was coming in right on the heels of the summer solstice for us here. Um, in our hemisphere, and then coming in for the winter solstice as well. So this full moon, I think the main stories are what we were talking about in the previous video, where the planets are coming in at are at new degree points in different signs, and they haven't been there for a lot of us in our lifetime. I think this is important because this full moon is at 1 degrees of Capricorn, and the sun at 1 degrees of Cancer, to me, signals a karmic turning point, which means we can move forward into the skate through the summer solstice, bringing in new energy, new life force, new ways of thinking, getting rid of old patterns. It's going to be really important for us to see the patterns that come up, especially around the home, especially around our home, as in ourselves, what we think about our families, what maybe they've led us to believe about ourselves. And it's time to create this new way of expressing how we want our home to look and feel, and how we want our home to work. Capricorn is the sign of work. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces. Saturn's about to turn retrograde in Pisces. So to me, that is a big story of this next 30 days. At the end of Cancer season, we'll have another full moon in Capricorn at 29 degrees. So talk about a culmination. This is really, I would say, baptism by fire, except we're working with water and earth, right? But it is this forcing through of new ways of being, creating new earth, as they always say, right? But this is about our earth and how we want to feel, how we want to be treated, right? How we value ourselves. We have to remember Venus is in Cancer, and that is us, right? That is how we value ourselves, value our time. It is love, right? It is creation. And so Venus is in Cancer, Mercury is in Cancer, the sun is in Cancer. So this is a lot of movement. This is a lot of conversation with ourselves about how we want things to go moving forward. But it's also a time to really focus on what our brains are thinking about, right? Because we've got out of Gemini season, and now we're going into cardinal water where we get to flow. So as we dive into the pool, it's important to see what we're thinking about in our thoughts, and if those thoughts need to be left behind on the other side of the gate of the summer solstice. Capricorn is a sign of work, and Cancer wants to work more in the flow, right? But it's this new way of working, right? The beautiful thing about Cancer is that Cancer stays out in the world, taking as much as it can until it can't take anymore, and then it goes into its shell. And so I think we're at a tipping point for all of us about what we quote unquote can't take anymore, right? And so now that we're retreating back into our shells, it is this magical time of creation, right? What do we want to create now that we're going into our homes? So when we walk out of our homes, what do we get to see, right? And a lot of what we get to see is based on what we think about up here and what we feel in here. This is a huge reset for the next 30 days with these two full moons in Capricorn, with Capricorn's ruler in Pisces, right? Pisces is the mystic, but lower Pisces is that illusion, delusion, addiction, narcissism. Higher Pisces knows when things are done, you let them go so you can be reborn, right? That rebirth. That Christ consciousness, honestly. Like once you're done with living in this suit, you go to the next suit, right? And that next suit is energy. So it's the idea that, energy doesn't die, it can be transmuted, but the idea of the ascension, if you will. But how do we do that here in the 3D world? How do we do that? By forgiving, right? Ourselves, forgiving the other. Cancer is the first water sign, that cardinal feeling, right? That initiation. So that's very personal to us. Pisces represents the other. Pisces is the last water sign. Pisces is mutable, right? And so we're getting out of always looking to the other for the affirmation, for like, oh yeah, we're doing it right. We're going back into our home. We're going back into Cancer. We're going back into our intuition. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So this is going to be a really powerful 30 days. It's important to take your time with these next 30 days. It's important to see what you want your pace to be. It's important to see how you want to work moving forward, right? The idea of just like not working, just to work, like, oh, I've always got to feel like I've got to be quote unquote productive. When if I realize, oh, I do it this time and I'm productive, I get my stuff done. I get my stuff done, right? Moving out of those old patriarchal terms of what work is, and moving more into how do I like to work? How do I like to be creative when I work, or how you work? And what gives us joy? What gives us, a reason to get up every day, right? It's very personal. And we want to get into that flow with Cancer. We want to use our intuition, right? And we want to look across from Cancer and see Capricorn. And Capricorn wants to bring stability into this. That's why Saturn is the sign of stability. Saturn used to rule Aquarius, right? Aquarius's ancient ruler is in Pisces. So it still understands how to bring in these new ideas. It's very nuanced, right? Because that's Cancer. Cancer can be secrets, right? Cancer can be nuanced in a beautiful way, not a dark and dangerous way. I mean, it could relate to that too, but the idea is how do we get out of it, right? How do we work to get ourselves out of these things? And just being okay with it. Working right now with a lot of people, they're at a tipping point, and sometimes with that tipping point, you know, people feel bad, like, I can't believe I let myself get to this place. We all let ourselves get to places, you guys, right? The main thing is, how do we want to go moving forward? You know, leaving that guilt and shame behind, right? Those are those toxic traits that keep us in relationships we don't need to be in any longer. And also for us empaths, always seeing the other side. It keeps coming through very strong, like seeing those red flags or those warning signs and being compassionate, like, yeah, I do see the other side, but that's also a reason why I can get out of this relationship. I don't need to stay in it. I keep trying to explain to us, like, there's certain things we don't need to navigate. Like, we just don't need to. We always thought, well, I got to show up and I got to navigate this. I got to figure this out. But if it is not you, and it's someone else's addiction or someone else's delusion or someone else's problem, and you've, tried and there's no change, but you keep making up that story to keep you in that situation, that's the story, right? That's the time to move on. This is a good month to do that. This is a good month to lay that foundation. Saturn is in Pisces. Saturn is going to let the illusion be seen. We had a lot of reality checks. The moon was just squared Neptune yesterday, right? So all these planets are squaring Neptune at that degree of mastery in Pisces. We talked about that in the last video. And it's bringing in a lot of these reality checks. And the reality checks is it's time to move forward. We've got to remember lunar north node is in Aries. Aries is our self, right? Aries is cardinal fire, showing up authentically. South node, lunar south node is in Libra. How do we keep bringing things into balance? And again, one of the ways we bring things into balance, especially Cancer season, is being in the water, but also understanding we've got to bring some earth into that. We've got to have some stability. We've got to keep things practical. Earth signs are practical. And speaking of practicality and movement, right? Because a lot of times, sometimes when we get in water signs, it does get a little squishy, right? But the good news is Mars is in a wide trine to this moon. And Mars wants movement. Mars is that divine masculine. Mars is that spiritual warrior. And he's at 9 degrees of Taurus, right? Fixed earth. And so fixed Earth of Taurus being Venus's ruler, Venus is in Cancer, right? She's saying, this is how I need to show up. This is who I am now. This is what I value. And Mars is over there screaming at the moon, hey, buddy, Capricorn, hey, buddy, woo, right? Okay, we got to keep things moving. It can be a little bit of a slower pace, right? It doesn't have to be a sprint, but we need to work at this a little bit differently. And the way we work at this a little bit differently is we start bringing in more of that intuition. We start bringing in the moon. And the beautiful thing about that, Cancer rules the moon, right? And in that moon card, right, remember we had the wild dog and the domesticated dog. Both are present, both are needed at this time. One final thing I will say about this moon, and I do believe moving through this month, besides it being, it could be an extremely creative month for us all. I do see this as a deep healing of the mother wound, because the moon can represent the mother. And so I do feel like this is a deep healing of any issues we have around the mother, how we see the mother, what we think mothers are supposed to do. And so it is a month to be like nurturing ourselves, seeing how we can be our own best mother. But it is this deep forgiveness within ourselves and maybe to the mother, if that needs to be brought up as well. So this is going to be a really powerful month, you guys, and it's really beautiful that's coming in with the summer solstice. So all good things. We might meet, Capricorn is there to work, right? But it doesn't have to be the grind like it used to be, right? We can see how we want to work and flow. That's why Capricorn is opposite of Cancer. That's why we have to get this balance back so we can do both. Okay, friends, I'm going to leave it there. If you have any questions, just reach out below in the comments, like and subscribe and all those good things. Tell your friends. Okay, till next time.